You know what's wild? There's this 44-kilometer stretch of road in Chilean Patagonia that's completely transformed how people think about adventure cycling, where German architecture meets pristine rainforest and thermal hot springs.
That sounds incredible. What makes this particular section of the Carretera Austral so unique?
Well, imagine cycling through what feels like nature's own art gallery. The route from La Junta to Puyuhuapi winds through this pristine, temperate rainforest, and every few kilometers reveals another stunning vista. The fascinating thing is that it's actually one of the gentler sections of the entire route.
So tell me more about what cyclists actually experience along the way.
Picture this. You're pedaling along a paved road that hugs the edge of a fjord, with these massive ferns creating natural tunnels overhead. The local ecosystem is so pristine that it supports some of the last remaining huemul deer in the world. There are only about 1,500 left in existence.
Hmm, that's actually a pretty sobering statistic about the huemul deer. How does the route help protect these endangered species?
The way they've designed the route is pretty clever. It provides just enough access for cyclists to appreciate the wilderness without disturbing the natural habitats. And you know what's really interesting? The Rosselot River crossing has become this unofficial wildlife observation point where cyclists regularly spot kingfishers and herons.
That's fascinating how they've balanced accessibility with conservation. What about the German influence you mentioned?
Oh man, that's one of the most unexpected parts of the journey. These German settlers arrived in the 1930s and essentially created this little piece of Bavaria right there on a Chilean fjord. You'll be cycling along and suddenly come across these Alpine-style buildings that look like they've been plucked straight from Europe.
Well, that must create some interesting cultural dynamics.
It really does. Like, there's this amazing fusion happening in Puyuhuapi where you can get traditional German kuchen made with local Chilean berries, and some of the older residents still speak this unique dialect that mixes German and Spanish. The local architecture tells the story of how these two cultures have blended over nearly a century.
How do cyclists typically handle the logistics of staying in such a remote area?
That's another surprising aspect. Despite being pretty isolated, there's this incredible network of family-run hospedajes. And get this, they've got this brilliant system of bike mechanics stationed all along the Carretera Austral, from Puerto Varas all the way to Villa O'Higgins.
You mentioned hot springs earlier. Are they actually accessible to cyclists?
Oh yeah, and they're incredible. After cycling all day, you can take a short boat ride to these natural thermal pools that sit right on the edge of the fjord. The water stays at a constant 39 degrees Celsius, and you're soaking while watching the sunset over snow-capped peaks.
That sounds like the perfect way to end a day of cycling. What about the weather conditions?
Well, here's something fascinating. The local climate is so dynamic that they have this saying, if you don't like the weather in Puyuhuapi, just wait 5 minutes. The unique geography of the fjord creates these microclimates where you might experience 4 seasons in one ride.
How do you prepare for such variable conditions?
The key is layering and always carrying both sunscreen and rain gear. But you know what's really cool? The temperate rainforest canopy actually creates this natural shelter system. The dense foliage helps protect cyclists from both heavy rain and intense sun.
What would you say is the biggest misconception about this section of the route?
People often think that because it's shorter, it's somehow less significant than other sections. But this 44-kilometer stretch actually contains some of the most diverse ecosystems in all of Patagonia. It's like cycling through a living museum of biodiversity.
That really puts it in perspective. Any final thoughts for someone considering this route?
The magic of this section isn't in the distance covered. It's in how it changes your perspective on what adventure cycling can be. It's proof that sometimes the shortest distances contain the biggest surprises, especially when you're traveling at the perfect human-powered pace to actually notice them.